How we doing, Hal-Con? That's more like it. I like hearing that. Are you ready for our Q&A? Yes? All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to read off the sheet because these people have made a living doing this and they've achieved a lot, and I want to make sure that I get everything right. So, our first guest is ALB. ALB is a Toronto-based illustrator and content creator for YouTube. Through her ever-growing platform, she explores lifestyle, fashion, pop culture, contemporary feminist issues, and creates unique meditative sleep aids. Her most recent sequential art can be found in the runway Kickstarter success, The Secret Love of Geek Girls, published by Dark Horse Comics and Bedside Press. She likes small dogs, 80s toys, and mango juice. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ALB. Thank you. Please have a seat right over here. And you can grab one of those microphones. And our other guest is Mr. Rodney Smith. Rodney Smith has a passion for teaching and playing board games that has led him to start a YouTube channel in 2011 dedicated to the idea of sharing the hobby. Since then, Watch It Played has fully taught over 100 games and produced over 750 videos, growing to be the #1 source for board game instructional content in the hobby, a project that has been a part of his hobby from his based in Prince Edward Island. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make some noise for Mr. Rodney Smith. I know, right? And I'm your host, your moderator, Mr. Stu Metz. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So I've read the bios that are written in the paper there, but I feel like we should open it up to hear from the actual guests. So ALB, I'll let you go first, and you can tell us a little bit about your two YouTube channels with an S.
Yeah, so I have two YouTube channels. The first one is ALB in Wonderland, where I do a whole bunch of different things. I make like fashion and lifestyle kind of videos, and I also do like social political rants, and I make some comedy stuff, but it's basically kind of whatever I'm feeling. Sometimes I do reviews, I don't know. It's like it's more an extension of my personality, because I just kind of make whatever I'm feeling like making in that moment, and I'm so lucky because my viewers are pretty okay with that. They're like, yeah, whatever you want to do. And then on my second channel, it's very focused. It's not so all over the place. I make ASMR videos. If you don't know what that is, it stands for Autonomous Meridian Sensory Response, I think. I mean, offhand. Basically, they're just sleep meditation videos. They're videos that people watch when they're panicking, when they're having anxiety, when they're stressed, when they're dealing with insomnia. A lot of people watch them before they go to bed. And how I describe them to people is like, you know, the Bob Ross thing, how you're watching somebody paint and they're like, really painting happy little trees, and it's a gentle and nice experience. So that's, you know, those are the kind of videos I make, and a lot of them they're painting, but there's a lot of other different types of stuff too, but yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks so much. All right, and our other guest, Mr. Rodney Smith, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I create instructional videos for board games. Does anyone here play board games? Is there any tabletop gamers here? Yay, go,
we got quite a few out there.
That's good. Yeah, so the big barrier to the fun in most board games is that rule book, right? So the idea behind the channel was to fully teach the game so you can have someone else teach you, which is how most people like to learn board games. And then we also play the games as well. So we'll usually do that over a few different episodes. And between episodes, we stop and we turn it back over to the audience and invite them to vote on the gameplay decisions. So that way, as a viewer, you're actually participating in the gameplay, you're having influence on. We come back, we take the most popular choice, and we play through that as well. So the idea is hopefully that people can figure out whether or not this is something they enjoy playing themselves, or just play along and have fun that way. And yeah, that's the bulk of what I do now, and it's led to publishers hiring us to do instructional videos and that sort of thing. So that's the journey.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Now, I'm curious, just because we've got quite an audience out here, do we have any other folks out here that either dabble in or are trying to be a YouTube content creator? Just put your hands up. So there is quite a few out there. That's awesome. I myself, there's a lot of people that nowadays say, because Netflix is so popular and all that sort of thing, they say, oh, you know, I had a day off, so I spent all day watching Netflix. For me, I watch Netflix this much, and I watch YouTube as much as, I can't reach the ceiling, but about that much.
Thank you, Stu.
I love Netflix, and I am a person that makes sure that my ad blocker is not turned on when I'm on YouTube, because I want to make sure that the content creators make a living.
We appreciate it just so much.
We're going to open the floor up to some questions. We're going to have our roving microphone guy right there. If you have a question, feel free to just make your way up to the microphone there, and we can start the Q&A.
Everybody's a little shy right now.
I know, right? It's okay. We're all friends here, I promise. Oh, there's one right over there. Go right ahead. Walk right up. Oh, I don't know if we can. I'll run over there with this mic if you want me to. There we go. What's your name?
I'm Alexandra.
And what is your question?
My question is, I know you got into, as a YouTuber and as a general member of the community for Magical Girls, you were basically a veteran. And I wanted to know what the scene looked like more like 10, 15 years ago, when YouTube was just starting, and you were just starting to kind of bring the community together, or the community was coming together, and how you evolved.
Like, are you talking about specifically like Magical Girl, like anime?
I think it's maybe not so defined, but I think
Yeah.
you are a member of, or like a figurehead
There's
for
like-
a community that wasn't so much
There's a lot of
defined.
girls who are doing that kind of aesthetic and stuff now, right? I mean, I feel like when I started doing YouTube stuff, it was like 10 years ago, and it was such a different landscape than it is now. I mean, we were all just kind of like cowboys just trying to figure it out, and there were like, it was like, there's no rules essentially, and there was no guidebook of what works, and so that, I guess, is kind of a fun thing, because if you're doing something for the first time and it does well, you're the first one to do it, you know what I mean? Whereas, I mean, I'm sure you guys know, so many of you put up your hands that you want to get into YouTube. It's hard to be the first one to do something now, right? Like, a lot of the little pockets of, like, little niches are pretty much not covered, but a lot of people are doing stuff. So, I mean, when I started making videos, it was just for fun, and there was no money to be made. I was just a high schooler who was like, haha, I'm on LiveJournal, and I want to make little videos about stuff. So, I mean, it's different now in that there's so many, to speak to your comment specifically, there's so many girls who are doing that I feel like a lot of people might not be sure how to stand out. But what's so great about it now is that it's so easy to meet other people who are doing similar things. And like, for example, I'm from Toronto, and we have a YouTube space there, and just going to events like that, or even like, I mean, this is kind of more my scene, to be honest, than a YouTube event. Like, I've been going to cons for years, so this is more my scene, and this is how I meet people. But like, going to YouTube stuff and making connections, I've made so many genuinely sincere friends who I like to work with, who are a pretty, not always the same like aesthetic and types of videos as me, but like similar, that we can work with each other and do stuff like that. So I think that's kind of the difference between now and then, is that the accessibility is there now. So if you're starting a channel yourself, there's, you can even go into YouTube and help, and there's like the YouTube playbook. So it's easier, but it's harder too. It's easier to find other people to work with and connect with, and make genuine connections with.
I think that's interesting. Like, a lot of people, again, put their hands up, right? And a common entrepreneurial statement is either you have to be first or you have to be the best or different, right? And being first is definitely harder to do now. But one thing, is that you can work at being one of the best. You can give your time up to it and work harder. That's one thing you can do. Or, as you said, you can find more people networking in this space. And sometimes it's a good idea to find other people who are just starting out like you are, and you can kind of work together to build your platform. And knowing where to present your platform is really important as well. Like, I'm in the board game space, so Board Game Geek is like the largest website for that. So I make a point of going there. I don't just sort of post into YouTube and hope someone will find it. I try to go where my audience already is, and then see if they are interested in what I'm creating, right? And that's how you kind of grow.
And like, again, to speak to that specific comment that you asked, there's been so many, especially when I was like a much smaller channel, there's been so many far more successful women who reached out to me and said, you know, let's work together on this video and stuff. So it's really helpful to find that like camaraderie and like almost mentorship, but not quite, you know what I mean? Just, it's important to form those bonds, I think.
I like seeing now, as someone that's watched YouTube for quite a while, I like seeing now that there's a bit of a YouTube community now, in that before it was kind of the Wild West where you kind of just struck out on your own and hoped for the best, whereas nowadays there's a YouTube community, and the community of YouTubers and YouTube content creators wants the community to continue to grow. And so there are places that you can go where, you know, this is how you do this for your channel, this is how you do for this, and this is how you can get set up. And that's just really nice to see that the community now is kind of fostering itself and wants it to continue to grow.
There's just so much room. Like, there's no reason to be at each other's throats about anything, because everyone doing better rises, everyone benefits from that, right? More people watching YouTube means someone will find ALB or find me, right? So if we're all creating better content, it's better for everyone, really.
Next question.
Yeah, my name's Jason. My question was for Rodney. I'm just wondering if you found any games that were particularly challenging to try and film, or ones that you'd like to put on, but you just can't figure a way to get it actually on video and put down in a way that can be figured out by people.
Yeah, there's definitely some games that are challenging. On my channel, I do sort of get final say on which games I decide to feature, so I will tend to avoid ones that I think would be impossible to do. But I have agreed to do a couple where the rule books were just so abysmally bad that it was, I remember one in particular, what was Robinson Crusoe. I opened up the box, I set it all out, I was getting ready to learn it, this is going to be great, I'd heard all these wonderful things. I got 3 pages into the rule book, and I just gently and carefully put everything back in the box, and I pushed it away, and like, no. But now they've just released a second edition of that game, and they've cleaned up the rule book, and that's the one I'm actually working on now. So I don't mind bagging on that game a little bit, because I'm coming back to actually do a video for that, because they cleaned it up. But there certainly are challenges sometimes to creating content around certain kinds of tabletop games, for sure.
Next question.
What editing software do you guys use, and do you have any tips for editing in general?
I use Final Cut Pro. When I was first starting out, I was just using iMovie, but I had to move into a different program because with my ASMR videos, it's all sound-based. You know what I mean? Like, I had to be able to edit. These are videos that are like an hour and a half each, and I edit second by second to make sure that all of the sound levels, and like, I make this from my bedroom, so sometimes my neighbors are like, and I'm like, oh God, let's just bring that right down. So I had to start using a more professional program to get the effects that I want, but you know, when I first started, I was just using iMovie. Final Cut Pro is good, but we have had words recently.
We were just talking about that.
We were just talking about this, like, the night before I flew here, I was pulling an all-nighter to finish a video, and like at 4 in the morning, Final Cut was like, and just crashed, and I lost it all, and I was like, no!
I've had those nights.
Yep, so I mean, as far as tips, save a lot, save so much.
That's such a good tip.
Yeah.
Such a gamer tip too.
It is a
save a
gamer
lot
tip.
And save often.
I use Adobe Premiere. I use that suite of software, Photoshop, Premiere, and all that. My biggest tip, though, if you don't know a lot about editing and you're trying to learn, there's all kinds of great YouTube resources.
I do that all the time. If I'm like, how do I get this effect? I YouTube it to make it for content for YouTube.
And I learned I was self-taught myself, and I did it with family videos. I just practiced and practiced and practiced until I got to a point where I was pretty comfortable with it. But yeah, I think if you go online, do some searching, again, saving a lot is a great tip. But you don't have to spend a ton of money. In fact, I generally recommend if you're just getting started, don't spend a lot of money. I do think first impressions are important, so you want to do the best job you can with what you have. But a lot of people maybe will watch a channel like ours and go, oh, I want to do that. And then you buy all this expensive equipment, and you get in your basement, and you spend a weekend shooting video, and you post it to the internet, and it gets 1 views, and someone tells you what a jerk you are or something, right, and wishes you die, right? So, and then you go, oh, maybe I don't want to do this every day, right? So that's not to discourage you. I just say, work with what you have, discover whether or not it's something you really have a vested interest in continuing to do, and then as you grow, you can build more, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Next question. Go right ahead.
Well, this kind of ends up bouncing off of that. How do you guys deal with the negativity that there is on YouTube as a platform?
I'm gonna let you
Okay, sure. Before I started the channel, I'd always been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I realized the kind of vitriol you might run into on the internet. And I think I made a decision early on that I would recognize I don't know who this person is at all. I don't know. This person could be someone who just got fired from their job. This could be somebody who, this could be an 11-year-old kid who's just acting out. I have no idea. The temptation is to imagine that this is someone who's a peer, who's someone who's your age, maybe in your same place, and to think, why is this person engaging this way with me? I'm going to come at them. And so I typically, as best as I can, just try to spin it in a positive way. I have made a point of, I reply to every comment on every video I make, so I am engaging these people. And I do find, though, most of the time, if you reply back with something friendly or kind, it generally takes all the wind out of their sails. Whatever they were trying to accomplish just sort of stops there.
Kill it with kindness.
Kill it with kindness.
Totally.
But I also just try not to, I just try to remember this person doesn't know me or really who I am, right? So it's not, I try not to take it too personally. But it can be hurtful, some of the things that are said, for sure.
Yeah, like I rarely am super insulted by something someone writes on a YouTube video because people will just write whatever. It's like, what do they say that like the most treacherous thing on the internet is like a YouTube comment section? Because it's just nonsense, you know what I mean? A lot of the time. I don't generally deal with too much negativity unless I have an opinion. So that happens sometimes. Most of what helps me, and this is like a direct like day-to-day coping mechanism, I just have a small group of friends who do a similar job to me. They are also on the internet in some capacity, and we just have a group chat, and I just like screen cap, be like, look at what this person said, and then we laugh for a second, and then I'm over it. You know what I mean? Even if it's not a mean comment, it's just like, why would you say that? Like, I don't want to ever publicly make fun of someone, but you know, it's a little coping mechanism for me that I'm like, gee, that person said something really unkind, but I'm gonna show my friends, and then we're just gonna have a little moment where we laugh about it, and then I'm over it, and I don't think about it anymore, because it's like that thing where when you tell someone else about a problem, somehow you don't care about it anymore. So whenever there's something particularly nasty, and then I always remember the words of Paris Hilton when she said, never respond to weirdos. It only encourages them. So I think about Paris Hilton all the time because there is a temptation when someone says something and you're like, oh, I could say something really funny back. I'm gonna do it. But then it doesn't matter if you won, if you're like, oh, I said something so witty and clever, like, oh, my audience will think that this is so fun. It doesn't matter. The person isn't doing it so that they'll look smarter than you. They just want a response, right? That's all they want from you. So if you just don't respond to it, it's like, oh, like that's, you know what I mean? Sometimes I would get messages 4 pages long, just telling me what a terrible person I am for whatever reason. And I would just be like, delete.
I was just going to say, like, it's so wonderful. They spent all this time and energy creating that 4-page thing, and in half a second you undid it by hitting delete.
Yeah, because if you respond, no matter what you say,
Yeah.
it's still like, heh, she read that.
Yeah, I'd rather they know, oh, they wasted time.
Yeah.
You know, and so maybe I'm less of a
So
target next time.
I always hear Paris Hilton's voice in my head that it's like, if something
That's amazing.
is just rude to the point where, you know, it's really like a terrible thing to say, like for whatever, like it's a bad thing, I don't even respond to it because it just is going to encourage them and then you're going to get more. And I found that, I don't know if you guys use Tumblr anymore. Do you guys use Tumblr?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, like, I used to be really into Tumblr, and I'd answer a lot of asks, and if I answered one kind of mean ask, I'd get way more. And then for like 5 months, I stopped answering mean ones. I haven't gotten a single one since. Because if people see that you respond to someone being rude and mean, they're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna leave a really mean comment.
Easy target.
Yeah, she'll respond to it.
All right. Next question. Go right ahead.
Hey guys, first off, just want to say thank you guys for coming out and doing this. This is really cool. I'm sure everybody here appreciates it very much. Stu, congrats on the Coast Award, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
I got a question for you guys. ALB, I actually discovered you years ago. I can't even remember the date. And to see you, on the stage here talking about your successes, I think it's really cool. So my question is about consistency. Artists of any kind hit that wall quite a few times. How do you guys kind of continue and make sure that you break through that wall and keep on it?
For me, this isn't what everyone experiences, but like I find that something that holds me back a lot is I have this like perfectionist gene in me where like I don't want to put anything out unless I feel so 100% proud of it that it's the best thing that I can do. But then a lot of the time that means I just don't post anything because I want to have control and make the best content I can make. So it's like, so I'm not putting out anything. So I guess you have to almost kind of have this inner battle where you're like, is it better that I'm just posting stuff? Or is it better that I'm releasing one thing every couple of weeks that's like to the highest caliber that I can possibly imagine? That's my biggest struggle in terms of consistency, is like that inner battle.
I think one thing that really helps is to have a real passion for what you're talking about, and obviously ALB you do, and I think my obsession is cardboard and plastic. So even though I'm spending like maybe a full day in my basement shooting this video, I want to do it again tomorrow. It doesn't wear me down, right? And I think that's really important in the consistency side of things. And I think what you said, I really liked hearing you saying about the importance of that quality, that mattering to you, because anyone can do this. You just grab a camera, put it in front of your face, and upload it, right? And that's certainly a place to start. But it is nice when your audience can see that you care about the experience you're trying to create for them. And so I think that comes down to the kind of work that you put into it. Yeah, and to go back to the earlier question from before about like the difficult rule books, that's one way I challenge myself creatively is I'll take on something that maybe, okay, I've done a few games that are quite easy, now I'm going to try to do something that's a little more challenging, and that will sort of provoke me to get a little out of my comfort zone, because you can get in a comfort zone, I think.
Absolutely. Like a lot of the time, I think to myself, like, have I made a video like this already? Right. If I have, how can I do it differently so that it isn't just... because there is a temptation, if something does really well, to almost mimic that guideline of it. Like, oh, this did really well. I can do kind of the same thing again. But then you put yourself in a little pocket that people will have expectations of, what your videos will be. Another thing that sometimes helps me when it comes to consistency is having accountability to somebody else. When I am only accountable to myself, I find like I need to be accountable to somebody else. I need somebody else being like, where is this thing? So sometimes with friends, I'll be like, hey, just ask me about this thing that I need to have done on this day. And them just asking me, did you do this? I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I didn't. So like it's good for accountability, for consistency, to have someone, like I do that with my partner sometimes too, where I'm just like, just ask me about it. Because you asking me about this thing will make me feel guilty. So it's gonna get done.
Guilt is a good motivator,
yeah,
sure.
I mean, it works.
Next question, go right ahead.
Is an upload schedule very important to success on YouTube?
I think a lot of people would say yes, and I think the general answer is yes. For myself, my show's a little different, so I don't have a fixed schedule. For me, it's more about I'm going to have X number of videos released within a given week, so people know they're going to see 3 or 4 videos a week type of thing. So that's more for me, but I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of success in knowing every Tuesday at such and such a time, I'm going to see this video post, and it's kind of like television. You're kind of waiting for it to show up there. And
that's totally, like with the channels that I watch and I like, I know that they're gonna upload like at a certain time. Like I follow this one guy called Solo Travel Vlogs. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, anybody? Go check him out, yeah? He's really funny. He posts a video every Saturday at 10 a.m. So I'm always like, it's time for a Solo Travel Vlogs video because I know it's up. For me, I follow the same schedule as you where I'm just like, I have to post twice this week, right? And I'm gonna do it, and I do that.
There was a but there maybe? Or?
So I do that. And, but whenever I've attempted to do scheduling, like posting a video on a certain day, it just doesn't work for me. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just not something that works with my schedule or the type of person that I am. But I've always been like, okay guys, I'm gonna post on every Thursday, and then it's like the 3rd week, and I'm like, so you may have noticed there's no video this week. It will be up tomorrow, because that's how I work. So, but a lot of the channels that I love upload on the day. So
our advice is do it, but we're not doing it.
Yeah, I guess. Like that would honestly be, because I have such a guttural reaction to knowing when my favorite channels are posting, but I don't
Because
do
then
that.
you can become part of someone else's ritual,
Yes.
right? Something that they look forward to in their day.
My recommendation would be to post on a specific day. For sure.
I actually follow quite a few channels that specifically because they post on a specific day, and
You look forward to it.
I really do. Like, I don't have cable at all anymore, and like I said, I watch Netflix maybe, but I'm on YouTube like every single day, and on the days that I know a post is coming, I'm waiting there with like bated breath, and have the app on my phone so I get the notification and
It's
like.
the reliability too.
Yeah.
Like after a couple episodes, they've proven to you, that channel has proven to you that that you have that they have your trust, right? That
Yeah.
you trust them to upload and they do it. There's a follow through. I mean, I don't have that, but
Next question, go ahead.
Speaking of favorite channels, what's your guys' favorite?
We're both here. I don't know. What's our favorite? Oh, no. Well, the thing is, a lot of my favorites do tend to be YouTube channels that are in the same kind of sphere as what I'm doing. So I watch the Dice Tower. I watch this Man vs. Meeple, Drive-Thru Reviews, Rolling Dice, Taking Names. These are all other podcasts and shows that do things similar or different than what I do, and I find I get a lot of inspiration. Because of having shot videos for a while now, having had the channel, I've gotten to know a lot of these people too, so they've become even friends. So I just enjoy watching these because these are my buddies who are also creating content. And then sometimes we'll get together at shows and do things together and collaborate. So a lot of my, I guess the things I like to watch tend to just be in the same kind of sphere as what I enjoy myself.
I'm kind of like that. Like a lot of the people I watch are people I've met who then I'm like, oh, I really like you as a person, so I'm going to watch your content because I just like you. And then I'm like, maybe kind of weird because it's like, oh, I watch this fashion and beauty stuff. And then I'm like, I really want to go watch a surgical video. Do you guys know Dr. Pimple Popper? Yeah, I love her. I watch every video. I like stuff like that that's completely out of the scope of what I do because it's so different from what I do.
It's probably a little refreshing too.
There's
I suppose,
something
yeah.
about that, you know? So yeah, and I watch a lot of ASMR videos because the reason I got into ASMR was because I just like had terrible insomnia and every night it was a struggle. So I found them, this was like 4 years ago. I found ASMR videos and so I have like a bunch of favorites of those. Like I really love Gentle Whispering and like Heather Feather. And it's fun too because now I make those videos. So now I'm like friends with them and I'm like, oh, it's nice, it's fun.
It is, yeah.
All right, next question right over here. Go right ahead.
All right. As a new content creator, I've decided to sort of get into the world of both YouTube and Twitch streaming, like streaming games live, and I find it hard to balance between the two, especially while working full time. Do you think it's better to split or allocate your time fully to one, or is it okay to split between the two?
It's probably hard to say, oh no, you absolutely shouldn't do one or the other because there might be something perfect that works best for you. I know for myself, I focused my attention on one particular platform because for me at first I was also working another job, right? So I wanted to sort of focus on one thing and be able to know as it was growing the impact I was having on it, right? I could kind of micromanage that a little more. So I would tend to say pick one, especially if you have limited time, and try to focus on that. At the same time, if you're dabbling a little bit already, you might already have a sense of which you're enjoying more, which you have a more passion for, because I think that passion will come through in what you're doing. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my mom always said, instead of half-assing a couple things, you should whole-ass one thing.
I like your mom.
Yeah, she's pretty
good
cool.
mom.
So I find personally, the more I spread myself out, just the worse all of them are. Like they're just not as good. But I think the question for you is going to be specifically figuring out where your audience lives. You know what I mean? Where the people who want to watch you specifically are. And there's a lot of crossover where you can pull stuff that you did from Twitch and put it on YouTube. But the thing is, your audience is not going to want to watch you twice. You know what I mean? So it is going to be, you can either try to find the balance or just start on one. And when it gets really big, then try to bring one over to the other. Yeah, and another thing I would say, like, because I so relate to you saying you work a full-time job in addition to doing those two things. Like, that's incredible. Like, good for you. That is an incredible thing to take on. As far as, like, the actual content creating goes, I try to mentally work in a space where I am creating about 80% of the time, and 20% of the time I'm, like, promoting it. So that's a thing as well. But, yeah, it's hard to spread yourself out into two things. It might be a case where, for the benefit of your work, you might want to just focus on one thing. Yeah, that's just been my experience.
Awesome jacket too. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I just want to interject one quick question right before we get to you. Social media, you're on YouTube, but how much of yourself do you spread over other platforms of just social media, not like another streaming service or anything like that, but how much do you feel like you need to invest in other forms of social media to promote yourself?
I think you're on more platforms than I am. I tend to be focused mainly on YouTube and then Twitter and a little bit on Facebook as well and a little bit of Instagram. It's like the gentleman was saying before, it's a little about spreading myself. It's difficult to manage all those different things. And I was one of those people who thought Twitter is dumb. And as soon as I got on there, I found, oh no, this is where all the other content creators are. And this is where other people in my industry are as well. And it's much easier to access them on a personal level if they want to be. And it's become a great community, and it's been very helpful in growing my channel because people will see my content there and then maybe share it, and someone else who happens to be into board games and instructional videos would find me there. So I think it's very important to again, find the platform that works well for you, but then invest meaningful content into it. In other words, I'm not just posting, oh, I put up a video today. I'm actually taking time to create new kinds of content for that platform and also interacting with other people there as well. So I'm not just showing up there to self-promote, also to actually contribute to the community that I'm trying to be a part of.
Yeah, similarly, I have a very similar experience with, I'm mostly on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, so that's about the same amount as you. But
Sure,
for
yeah.
each thing, I really try to not repeat content too much. For Instagram, I rarely post about stuff I'm doing on YouTube because a lot of the times people are on both, so I want to keep it fresh for both. And similarly, I don't do crossover between my two channels too much. Like I try to keep those, not everybody follows everything, but the thing about Instagram and Twitter is I feel so much more comfortable having interactions with people than on YouTube. Unfortunately, it's more meaningful. It feels more real on those platforms. So that's where I tend to stay.
Thanks so much. All right, next question right over there. Go ahead.
Rodney Smith. Wait. What were you like when you first started the YouTube, and what was your best hopes?
What was my best, sorry, what was that?
Your hopes.
Oh, my hopes. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. When I first started, I was in my unfinished basement in my home. The water heater was behind me, and my filing cabinet was over there, and actually, that's still all true. I just have a little nicer backdrop to cover it up. But no, my hope really was to create something that someone out there was going to enjoy watching, right? So what originally started me was I was watching other people's content, especially around board games, and 5 people would say, this game is great, you should buy it, and 5 other people would say, no, it's not great, you shouldn't buy it. So a lot of people were reviewing, and I'd sit there as a viewer and I go, if I could just see it being played, I could make up my own mind because I know what I like, right? And so that's when it dawned on me, I could create something like that maybe, show people how the game works, and then they can make up their own mind. So my hope was that by doing that, I'd find some people, maybe like yourself, who said, oh, this is kind of neat. I want to keep watching this kind of content and supporting it. And so that's how I started. And thankfully, yes, I found a place within that community. I'll say that's the other thing about it. I live in Montague, Prince Edward Island. I was born and raised in Halifax, by the way, so it's nice to be in Halifax again. But a few years ago, I moved over there, and I felt very disconnected from the community that I was engaged in, this board gaming community. There just wasn't a lot of people. And I hoped that I could find a connection in some meaningful way. And certainly that was a result of it as well. So, yeah, thanks for your question.
For me, I didn't have any hopes for it because I was just a high schooler making videos for fun of just silly stuff that I was doing, or I was in a live journal community that was for Lolita specifically, and someone was asking a question about how to do something, and I was like, oh, I'll just make a video about it. It's way better than I could ever do typing. So I had no hopes or expectations for what it could be. I have hopes now of what I want it to be and things like that, but it was kind of one of those situations where I made something for fun and had an audience kind of thrust in my lap. And I was like, oh, what do I do with this? I guess I should do good, I should try. So now I have hopes, but at the time, it was never an intention. It was never thought in advance, I'm gonna make YouTube videos. I was like, well, it's something to do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I think we only have time for one more question. Sorry about that. But we'll go with the lady with the microphone there.
I came in kind of late, so I only heard about half of what you were talking about, working with what you have. I have a GoPro, and that's what I'm using to make my videos right now. but I want a secondary camera for a different angle. Is there anything you might recommend that's out there that's pretty decently priced or for a secondary camera view?
How do you like the GoPro that you're using now?
It's very nice. I very much enjoy it, but the GoPro angle is very wide.
Yeah.
And I have to edit me out. Or edit out all the junk in my background.
Yeah, it is difficult to say exactly what's best. Like I shoot personally with a digital SLR camera, but it's not, that's not an inexpensive piece of equipment. But I don't, do you have a particular camera that you use?
I would almost just recommend the one that I have, which I bought like 4 years ago, so you can get it kind of cheap now. I mean, cameras are never cheap, right? But it goes now for the like under 500 range, which is, you know, it's okay. And I use a Canon Rebel T3i. It's a T3i.
Okay. I didn't say it out loud, but that's the camera I was thinking in my head as well.
But that's not the newest version,
No.
right? There's like 3 new versions, so those ones are like the pricey ones.
Right.
Whereas this one that I'm still using and I'm going to use till it breaks because it's fine. It's good enough.
In high definition?
Sorry?
Is it high def?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because the thing about a camera like that is you can just get new lenses depending on what you want to do. Whereas if you get a camera with one fixed lens, you can zoom in and zoom out. You know what I mean? Whereas like now with the newer types of videos I do with like my ASMR videos, I can buy a macro lens and get like, people are always like, what camera is this? And I'm like, oh, my friend, it's not the camera that matters. It's the lens. So you could get the, even on like Craigslist and stuff, I've seen just the body go for like $300.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
And then you could, get a standard lens and things like that. I would definitely recommend that camera.
Speaking as a photographer who does make videos and all that sort
guy
of
here,
thing.
right
It's like what award did you win this weekend?
Best photographer in Halifax, yeah.
We'll just be over
We're like,
here.
oh yeah, let me just talk about what camera.
Totally fine. But I get that question a lot too. People are asking, I want to just create stuff on YouTube and, I don't want to spend what I would spend on a camera, which is about $3,000 or more. I recommend things like Canon T2Is, T3Is, and all that sort of thing. They're great cameras, and they do the job, and your video will look pristine and perfect. And so you don't have to go out and buy a $3,000 camera like I would.
Thank you.
All right. So we're coming to the end here, and I want to give you both the time to just have any little last remarks. It doesn't have to be on any specific topic. You can just kind of have the floor for a second to say whatever you want.
Great. Well, first of all, thanks guys for coming out. That's really really cool, awesome, and I think being able to do what we do is certainly a privilege on some level. Like we're very fortunate to have been able to find an audience and people who support it, which may be some of you here in this audience, and that means a great deal because ultimately, although I'm sitting alone in my basement shooting these videos, there is another community out there of people who are watching and appreciating it on some level, and that certainly means a lot and fuels, I think, a lot of the creative energies that we put into it. So that's great, and it really means a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you follow that up? I just thank you guys so much for coming. This is my first time in Halifax ever, but I'm an East Coast babe, so it's amazing, and I love it here, and I'm just so grateful that you guys would come hear us talk. Like you, I work in my bedroom, so it's it's so awesome,
It's
and
so
that's the
lonely.
power of YouTube. You know what I mean? You can find your people, and that's one of the greatest things about living and being here in this day. 10 years ago, this didn't exist. You couldn't do this in this capacity and have the ease to find someone who's a friend at a con or on YouTube and stuff. It's such a connective thing, and that's just so special, So where can they find you this weekend?
I'm going to be mainly down on the bottom floor where all the gaming is happening. I'll be demoing some games there. If you see me and you're like, I'd like to learn a new game, but I don't have anyone to play with, I'll play with you. So we can learn and play something together. I brought a few things, and they have a nice library there as well. And I'll be bouncing around. There's a pandemic tournament that's going on, and me and my son Luke, who also appears on the show sometimes, we'll be doing that together, and a board game blitz events as well. But otherwise, I'll just be roaming around and demoing games. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm going to be in the next room in the little guest section, and I have a very pink table, so you'll find me.
All right, let's before we give one last thing, I would like to get a selfie with the two of you, with the audience in the background, if that's doable. We want to do it? All right, let's do it. Everybody stand up so you're in the shot too.
Here we go on either side of you.
That looks way cooler.
Here we go. Crowd in, everybody. Here we go.
Hold your-
3, 2, 1.
Well done, everybody.
Genius. Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you
big
guys
round of
for
applause,
coming.
ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out. Today's Q&A. And please subscribe.
Hal-Con.